Welcome to Sound and Form. I am your host, Gauravani. Thank you so much for being with us. I can't wait for you to meet my friend who's joining us today, Baldev Maheshwari. But let's start with a little song. Sitaram Jaya, Sitaram, Sitaram Jaya, Sitaram, Sitaram Jaya, Sitaram, Sitaram Jaya, Sitaram, oh, Sitaram, oh, Sitaram. I love you, I do. 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 Some of you may recognize that song from, it's called I Love You, from one of my musical groups that I play with called Hanuman. And that song is a great way to start today's podcast. The theme of that song for me is recognizing how all the relationships in our lives are in some way linked, and that without the awareness of that kind of connection beyond the externals, we won't fully understand ourselves. That connection to each other and to God is really what makes us whole. So this is Sound and Form. Sound and Form is about the touch points between eternity and death, the spiritual and the material. And today I have the opportunity to speak to a dear friend who's become close over years of traveling to Mumbai and spending time with kind of a family, a community that I've become part of over now 20 years of going there. So my friend Baldev is going to share some of his story and his experiences over the last year and a half during this global pandemic. And he's a beautiful singer. He's a musician. He's a festival organizer. He's a leader. And he's a sweet guy. He's also happens to be very handsome. So I'm just putting that out there. No one get too fired up here. Okay. So without further ado, let me bring him in. Baldev. So nice to see you. Oh yeah, long distance hugs.
So good to see you, Gauravani.
It's so nice to see you, and I'm really grateful that you accepted my invitation. This is very spontaneous. We started talking about this, and we just decided we have to get together and talk. So, where are you right now?
I'm at home. I'm at my home, and
What area of Mumbai is your house?
So it's the suburbs. So when you come down to Bombay, we're closer to the south part of Bombay. I'm actually right at the other end, north part
So
of Bombay.
north side. So what's the official name of that part of? I mean, Mumbai is so large
Correct.
that it's like Los Angeles in the sense that it just is Mumbai forever until it's not Mumbai anymore and it becomes something else, right?
Right. So it's the place is called Borivli.
Borivli.
Yes.
Nice. And what are some of the unique spots of Borivali? What's the cool Borivali hangout spots or
Right. So Borivli is actually known for a lot of gardens, a lot of sports complexes,
Oh, cool.
and amazing food. So it's really famous for some really spicy, yummy food.
When I was there, wow, in fact, I think this was the last moments we spent together when I was in Mumbai 2 Januaries ago, right?
Yes.
So we had decided that after we did this kirtan, this concert together with some friends, and we decided after this, whatever happens, we're going to go and spend some time together. So we were at this really posh gathering with fantastic food and everything. And everyone's like, oh, please try this and please try this. And so I'm kind of eating everything. But then it's like, I see Baldev in the corner. He's like, don't eat anymore. Like, we're going to take you out and eat again. I'm like, you're kidding me. So I was there with Kairava, my middle daughter. And I was already full by the time we went out. And then we basically hit the road and we went to all these different local spots. I don't know, how many hours were we out going around Mumbai eating together?
I remember this. We met around 7 o'clock. That's the time I picked you up. And I dropped you back at 2 a.m. So yeah, for about 6 hours, however gross it sounds, we did eat. We went to 7 to 8 places.
We weren't eating that whole time, but tell us where we went. Where did we go? What were the spots?
We covered a lot of places. We went to
Do you remember?
We had Sizzlers. Our stomach was, I don't know. We just messed it up, I guess.
My daughter has a picture from that day. We had donuts, some sort of donuts. We had some sort of ice cream. We had some sort of street chats. We had I remember at one point there was not even a shop, and we went into. You guys were just wait in the car, and someone just ran somewhere and came back with these soy things, some sort of.
Correct.
So funny.
No, it was wonderful. That night was heavy on the stomach, but really
light on the spirit. And what happened after that was I didn't realize. Someone had said to me, "Have you heard about what's going on in China?" And I was just ready to get home. I had my, 14-year-old daughter. We had just done a long pilgrimage and trip, and I was just like, I need to head home. I don't know anything about China or anything. So when we got home, all of a sudden we started hearing all of this stuff. And little did I know that those moments with you were going to be my last, time seeing you. And, I used to see you every year. Yeah. And now, it's been 2 years. I haven't seen any of you guys. So before we get into talking about this and your story, one of the reasons why you and I connected more recently, just now, is because you're making music. And so I just want you to share for a second about this new album that's coming up, and tell us, give us a little bit of excitement about your project.
It's interesting because myself, along with a team that we have, my very, very dear friend Priyavrat Mafatlal, who you also know, we did come out with this concept of we need to get something that touches the soul, and it's. Yes, people come up with music, but I mean, for me, spiritual music has its own space. So Priyavrat, along with a friend called Nishant and the music arranger Rahul Popawala, all of us got together, and however funny this sounds, but we sat for 15 minutes and we cracked a track. We just spent so much time together, and it all just felt a place. And we covered a lot of chants which have Sita Ram, Govinda, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesh. And it's interesting because that's what we've been doing since 1.5 years, since COVID times. And it's because of how high everyone is on emotions as well. A lot of unique compositions are coming out. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Kind of coming right from the spirit. Music is incredible like that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Baldev and I have sung for countless hours together at festivals he organized and other gatherings, really fancy things with grand decorations and huge sound systems, and really tiny things with just a couple of people. And I feel bound to you because of this. I'm so excited to hear this album when it comes out. Let me just put this up so that folks can see. Well, Dave's not so into self-promotion, but here's some stuff if you want to find out more about his upcoming videos and music. And before we get into the heart of this podcast, let me also do this. If you want to support this podcast and what I'm doing, go to patreon.com/Gauravani. That's the engine behind all of the madness is you, friends. So please support. So thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me today. Maybe I can start by saying there was this point where everyone started getting hit with the first wave of COVID. And it was different for different countries, if you remember. So it was like, I remember the first thing that really just caught my attention, and I was scrolling through this New York Times article about Italy. And it was just I was someone has to do something. Why is this being allowed to just kind of run rampant? And, England, I'm not remembering the exact flow, but it was and then we started getting hit in America, and it just kind of went from bad to worse.
Yep.
And I kind of remember thinking, this is not happening. So our kids' school closed, and it was okay, a couple of months, we can handle this. We'll figure this out. A couple of months. And then it just got worse and dragged on and on. So in the midst of this, we start hearing rumblings that India's getting hit. And I was terrified when I heard that. I thought, if this catches in some populous area, it's just going to go everywhere. And I was speaking to friends and community and saying this is really tinderbox. And then India just shut down. Food was being delivered. People were in their homes. I heard it was it was hard, but people were really taking it seriously. And I was so happy. I knew how difficult it was because we were in the same situation in America, where it was just nothing. No, you can't go nowhere, nothing, And then there have been these waves coming and going in New York, and and it was just tearing through different regions of the world, Brazil. But then at one point, and this is where I'm getting to, at one point, we start seeing these gatherings in India. What? And it was hundreds and then thousands of our friends, community members. And I'm kind of scratching my head, what happened to COVID in India? And then there's, how the internet is, there's these rumors and stuff. It's India, they know how to use Ayurveda. So everyone's just self-medicating and going to shops and taking turmeric. It's all incredible. India's going to be okay. And I just thought, what are we doing wrong in America that they're doing right in India, that we're still so cautious? And major festivals in Vrindavan, the holy city of Vrindavan, major festivals in Mayapur, where people aren't wearing masks, thousands. And we just were mystified. And then all of a sudden it started changing.
Yeah.
So not that you have to take it from that point in my story, but maybe you can share with me your story.
Right.
So that I can understand, because we haven't talked about this. Even though you and I have been in touch sporadically throughout this last year and a half, we haven't talked about this. Can you tell me what's this been like for you?
No, this is what's going on since a year and a half now. And so how did it all start for me? When, as you said, we hear something's happening in China, it's spreading so rapidly. My first belief was it won't reach India, or it won't cross China. Maybe we were in a denial mode, but that's exactly what's probably going on in my head. That, okay, fine, it's something that's happening in China, it's going to get done there. But when we started seeing, as you said, in Italy, New York, other places, and the power of social media, when you see those heartbreaking videos, that's where people started feeling, okay, this is real. That's the first time people would believe there is something called as, COVID. That was the first time, so as to say, Mumbai or India felt, there is something really serious and we need to be very careful. But as you said, speaking about Mumbai City is a very, it's a city that fights, city that
Right.
doesn't. And Mumbai has seen floods. We recently had a cyclone, which was devastating as well, right now in the heart of COVID.
When was that?
This was a month back. We had trees flying. We had a lot of property infrastructure damage. Roads were shut. If you remember, when you crossed the Sea Link,
Yeah.
that was on high alert because it was really nasty.
Wow.
And so, I mean, we have faced quite a bit. And to be very honest, it is a very resilient city. Whatever comes across when it comes to even blasts, if you have terror attacks. But the next day we have everyone up and running. So there was a confusion of being ultra careful and also slight bit of carelessness that, okay, fine, it's not going to happen to us till the time you face it yourself or one of your family members gets it. We were in
What
that.
was that? What was
Yeah.
that moment for you where
Right.
you went from thinking it's not going to come into India, it's not going to really affect us, we're Mumbai cars? Is that the right term? How do you say someone from a hipster, a Mumbai hipster? What was
Amchi
that?
Mumbai. Yeah, that's how
What do you say? Say it.
Amchi Mumbai.
Amchi Mumbai.
Yeah.
So what was that moment for you? Do you remember?
Correct. I do. The moment I saw someone who I knew affected, the moment I saw someone who I knew, their family members who were having a tough time dealing with finances, dealing with the entire, the entire experience of being in that scenario when you don't know what is the cure. Even the doctors knowing what's going to cure this, that is a very, very anxious moment to be in. And that's where it hit me, my family, in fact a lot of people that I knew, that okay, someone who I know has it, someone who I know has passed away. That's where it actually to be honest, sunk in.
When did that happen? Do you remember?
Yeah, this has been actually happening since 1 year. We've lost so many of our friends, colleagues, relatives. So yeah, it did happen. In fact, during the first wave, and then obviously the second wave was a mess.
So you're at the beginning, you're doing what? Are you still going to what happened with your work? Were you working from home remotely? Were you able to continue to work? What was your situation?
Right. So of course, before we used to go to our workplace, 15 kilometers away, but Mumbai has been strict. If you take the stats, initially we did really well because we had a complete lockdown. As you said, people could only go down that to one person from a family at a particular time to buy the groceries and the vegetables. So work was absolutely from home, on the laptops, and that's how it's been for at least 2 years now.
And you're able to work from home, but many people aren't.
Yeah.
So during that first shutdown, what was going on with like the people that we normally see around? What was it like on the street? I mean, do you have any idea?
It was very sad, because as you know, one of the reasons why I can say India is still developing is because of the size and the number of people in this country. You're talking about 1 billion people, right? So it was not at all easy. Not everyone has facilities like laptops or phones or smartphones. We're talking about tier 2, 3 cities where technology is not at the best, and it was an absolute it did take a couple of months to sink in, to be honest. Because all the helpers, all the people who work in factories, a couple of months was still fine, but when the entire laying off attitude, when it started affecting the finances and stuff like that started to happen, people were stranded. They don't have house, they don't have a house to live in, they don't have the money to pay the rent. So yes, there were a couple of very, very influential people who tried to help personally, like Sonu Sood, a famous actor. He literally took this initiative of getting thousands of people who were stranded literally on the road. I've heard of stories where families are walking for 100, 200 kilometers with their backpacks and luggages to go to their villages. And very fortunate to have a person like Sonu Sood who managed to get hundreds of buses to at least get them to their villages and hometowns. So such activities were happening. But again, as I said, the number is so big that there were people who were suffering, who didn't have food, who were stranded. So huge loss and a very sad situation initially in India.
So those people eventually had to leave the cities because my understanding is that so many people in India have left their hometowns and are in the cities to make money, and they send that money home, or they go home sporadically. So those people had to leave. They had to go find a way home.
Exactly. And the real estate rates in Bombay, it's crazy. You can't afford to own a house here.
Most people don't know that it's like one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, as far as real estate.
Yeah, and that's why we have, I'm not exaggerating, there are 15 to 20 people living in a dormitory in a room because they can't afford it. Imagine suddenly their jobs are gone. They have nothing to eat. Food not being available is the saddest, thing.
Yeah, very difficult.
Yeah.
So thank you for, for helping us understand that a little bit. But let's go back to you. So what was happening with you during this time?
I was, personally speaking, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have. I felt really grateful with all the facilities, even a basic thing like I could afford electricity.
Right.
I could afford a SIM card where I could be in touch with people and talk to people. I could work.
Yeah, your work, right.
I had my own house where I could watch something. I could make music. I could be with my parents. It started off with that. And when I see what people have gone through in these 1.5 years, I just feel very, very grateful and blessed to survive this.
Yeah, I know. I remember telling my kids at the early stage of the pandemic, where this is before we knew anyone who had gotten sick. When it clicked one day, I've always been very honest with my children. And I think maybe some people would say that I'm too honest with my children, but I've found that it's a way to teach them, to educate them. And so, I told them, when this is over, we're all going to know people who have left.
Yeah.
And probably it's going to be many before this is over. And now here we are, June 2021, and it's far from being over.
Yeah.
So by the time this is all finished, who knows where we're going to be? None of us know where this is going to take us.
Okay.
So you're working from home. How are you connecting with friends? Just social media, texting, things like that? Is that how you were staying in touch with people?
Yeah.
Were you able to see anyone? Like, what about with close friends? Were you kind of saying, you know what, COVID be damned, I'm going to come see you and we're going to do kirtan together? I'm talking about first wave. What was happening for you? Did you ever break the curfew, sneak out, go see someone, meet someone? What were you doing?
I'll be very honest. 1.5 years back, just before it was getting all over, we did meet a good number, around 40 of us, right? When COVID was still on. And because there was no rule as such by the government that, you can't step out.
Sure.
We did take that liberty of, okay, fine, let's see how it is. Even though we were taking somewhat precaution, I would not lie by saying we were fine. But it started off with that, and the next day the government announced that you're not supposed to meet in public. A certain amount of people can't meet.
So probably that means that you had the same idea as hundreds of thousands of other people. They're all thinking, go on, a little bit of social,
Exactly.
This is India. We've been through so many things. We've been through so many challenges for thousands of years, Yeah.
We'll face it. We'll fight it. Yeah.
So what did you do that day?
That day in the evening, we did.
And were there any soya chunks consumed?
No soya chunks.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, we just gathered. We did a couple of hours of music, spiritual music jamming, and we had some nice food together, and then we left. So
where was it? I don't want, if it's incriminating anyone, I don't want to say anything, but where was it? Was it outside or was it in someone's home? Where did you guys gather?
It was in someone's home. Yeah. So at least we were careful that we don't do something publicly. But this was again before it became very, very serious in Mumbai.
Right.
That day, it was because we started seeing what was happening around. That's where we had to, take a call.
So then this thing, you said the next day this thing comes out from the government. What did they say?
So there was, of course, the Prime Minister came online. He shared, his thoughts of what's the plan and how are they going to go about controlling, at whatever level they could. They came out with, certain, pointers of how you cannot step out unless you have a very, very serious reason, a medical reason, or to buy something for your household that you might want to consume day to day. Very clear instructions of not gathering more than X amount of people, and it was a shock for the people there because no one has ever told us not to go out. You can't drive, you can't walk, So that the restriction was heavy.
So what were you going to do? What did you think when you and your family heard that? Was there some discussion? What was the plan?
Right. It's sometimes difficult to tell people what to do because more people, more perceptions, more point of views. So it initially it does become challenging to make people understand that we need to do this. But as a family, we decided. My father was he put it there that we are no way we don't need to step out. There's no need. We have certain facilities with us because of which we don't need to explore going out. There's no need as such because we are seeing what impact this has. So it was clean. It was very clear in our house that we are not going to step out. So that was a rule that was made 1.5 years back. And to a certain extent, we did stick to it at least 90% of the times. A baseline rule of no stepping out. Yeah.
And Your dad is connected to this high school. What
Correct.
What was he doing? How was that? I mean, did everyone have online access at that school?
Not at all. So at that time, schools were on, for a good time, because again, there was this understanding that this doesn't affect the kids as much, right? So
Right.
initially, the schools were on, everything was going, on schedule. I was very worried for my dad, because he's stepping out again, meeting people.
So he
But
was having to go every day?
he did go every day. But again, as I mentioned, when the government made these rules, they also mentioned that you have to shut your schools, right? So then suddenly, all of a sudden, you have your schooling, which is shut. And we are talking about 600-700 schools of the number of students that I'm talking about in the school, who suddenly have been told that there will be no school from tomorrow.
Right.
Whatever we'll have to do, we'll convey through texts or emails. And that's how it stood for a month or two.
So people were basically getting homework emailed to them, texted to them, their assignments, something like that.
Correct. There was a big break, Gaurvani, a big break in terms of, I would like to go back. I mean, there was no time to even give them assignments or homework, because people are still figuring out, is this going to take a month, a week, or a year?
Right.
So it was just a big break, a blank moment for everyone of what has to be done right now. What do we do?
I know this is not the right thing to say, but I'm just speaking from my heart. I really liked that blank moment, because we all have such grand plans. And for me, it was like maybe the only moment in my life, because I remember that when that moment hit America, there was nothing to do. There was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to be. And no one knew anything about anything. Now, like you said, I recognize that I'm lucky that I was in a home. I had my family with me. We were all healthy. So I understand that for us, it was a blessing. But that blank moment, it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. That moment of blankness, of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So then you're working from home, and at some point then your dad's organizing, teaching and stuff from home.
Right.
So everyone's basically homebound all the time.
Yes.
When did you think you were going to lose your frickin' mind?
No, I've I've been lucky. It didn't happen in my house, but I did hear a lot of these issues happening, right? Because it's practically impossible to just be in the same room managing how to work with mom cooking inside, and some noise coming, and you're on a video call and you're like, "Mom, please come on." And then things like these happen, but you need to understand what there's no other choice. You need to adjust, accommodate, understand what everyone is going through, right?
It's true. And India is one of the most what's the word I'm looking for? Resilient places. People can figure it out. India is one of those places where if everything goes to hell, as they say, somehow or other, someone's going to figure something out. And next thing you know, things are going to get rolling again. That's been my experience,
Yes.
But okay, so this is going on. Everyone's becoming accustomed to the new status quo, which is home. And we talked a little bit about the people who had to leave town. So this is all going on. Then what happens? After this whole period is finished, then what happens? When did everyone start to decide that India was free from COVID and should open up? Was it spontaneous? Was it something that happened? Was there an official government announcement? Was it people starting to come on TV saying, hey, we beat COVID? What was it that got people to think, hey, maybe we beat this thing?
Okay. According to me, I can be wrong, but India is far away from being unmasked, the topic of our podcast.
Right.
But I felt there was again a comparison made with other countries and the numbers and the stats that were going on, um, with the US and Brazil, and the number of deaths and the number of cases happening in countries which had lesser number of people than India.
Means
That's where
population. You mean lesser population.
population, correct? And that's where I felt India or Mumbai or us, all of us, became a bit complacent. Um, Probably took that for granted, that okay, we don't have so many numbers, so we are fine. That's where, I mean, government did warn us of wearing the mask, but it wasn't a lockdown. Lockdown is what we're hearing since the past 6 months, right? But at that point of time, because the stats were not that much, and people thought they were in our favor, and we can just relax now. That's where people started venturing out, weddings starting happening. Weddings are one of the biggest crowd pullers in
Right.
India. When you have thousands of people attending weddings, religious gatherings. I mean,
When did you attend your first wedding after the first wave?
I actually didn't.
You
I
didn't
didn't.
go.
I didn't. My relative got married, so we had a number of 25 people who were invited in a small hall, and we conducted the entire wedding there. But we tried our level best to stick to what was.
For people who don't know, a 25-person wedding in India is like a shame. Like, if you have 25 people come to your wedding in India, you should be embarrassed. Like, only 25 people? It's ridiculous. Like, it's just unheard of to have such a small thing. But of course, this is what was required.
Absolutely. The problem was, while panic must definitely be avoided, but downplaying concerns have unpredictable but serious consequences. That this was, people were not panicking, but it just went the other way. It as I said, people just started taking this for granted. And
So you're home, your whole family's home, and you start hearing about people gathering, people having weddings, people doing kirtans, and people doing larger gatherings.
yeah.
Tell me how that felt.
Mumbai did pretty well. I keep saying this because there was a good time where we were not that bad, to be honest. Religion is a very personal subject, right? The path you choose and the intensity with which you choose that path and you go that way. But I do feel it got mixed up with a bit of blind faith, which caused a lot of issue. There were villages and places in Maharashtra. It's a state where Mumbai is in. They were absolutely COVID free. Huge number of people, heavy population, right? But one religious activity, it just took the stats to every 1 out of 4 people were positive because of that one event. I understand, people want to, be connected to God. It's beautiful. Everyone should be. But I think that's somewhere that practicality aspect was missed, which in a way was heavy.
Here in America, I know that there's been this kind of like tearing apart of people along religious lines,
Right.
political lines, health lines. Everyone's taking a side, and people saying you can't stop us from worshiping.
Yep.
We have the right to worship. You can't stop us from worshiping. And it's been in the courts. It's really hard. It's hard to care for people, and at the same time, you can't force people. Yeah. So was there a point where your own community of friends or whatever, like here we are now in the kind of hopefully coming out of this second wave in India? Yeah, we're praying, we're hoping, and we know that it's going to take a lot still to get us there. But was there a point where you started feeling that within your own community of friends that people were not being safe? Or has it been pretty consistent? Tell me.
I knew a few of them will also be watching this, but yes, there were friends, a good number of friends, who probably thought Krishna or God, he'll save us. Let's go ahead. We are taking his name. It's a personal choice, Gaurvani. For me, it didn't make sense. It made more sense if we are sitting in our homes praying, maybe on videos, maybe together virtually, just the way how we are speaking. I thought that is a good idea because it's too much at stake, Gaurvani. It's too much pain when I see people crying when they lose their loved ones. And one very, very important thing that I noticed is, till the time it doesn't happen to you, you don't understand the intensity of the situation. This is what strongly hit me in these 1.5 years. I was not so fanatic, but I did feel, till the time it doesn't happen to me, maybe it's fine. But when things get real, when it really hits you, when it hits your family, when it hits your relatives, at least that's the time you need to take a call and be serious about this. So I did try my level best to tell my friends, calm down, guys. We'll get the time to meet, celebrate together.
What did they want to do?
Few of them did hear me. There were a couple of festivals which were probably going to happen in Mumbai when things were light. But I just said that it's a very, very delicate time and it's not the right time. And the time will come, so.
What did they say to you when you said that? What did they say?
It was tough to convince, see, Gaurvani, these things, to a certain extent, it comes from within. I mean, I can say anything I want, but few of them were receptive, few of them did understand, but it's ultimately that sense of responsibility has to come within. And then ultimately the sense of responsibility needs to come towards the people as well. You need to realize that you're organizing something that might lead to something really dangerous and really risky for others. And as organizers, as leaders, if you can control that, you should.
It's hard for young people to take things seriously that they haven't perceived themselves, I know that we're heading here in America into festival season, and community members from the Hare Krishna community around are starting to gather for festivals and things, and my family and I are not going to be joining them, even though in America vaccination rates are higher, still not at safe levels. I mean, it's not that the majority of the people have been vaccinated still here, but we're not planning to join for any of the summer festivals this year, and we miss everyone. It hurts our hearts, but I see what happened in India, and I remember watching the festivals starting to happen in India, thinking, wow, there must be some magic in India that doesn't exist in America. No one's getting infected, So I'm worried. I'm worried that if we rush into this in a foolhardy way, that we're going to cause each other more difficulty. Because the world is one, in the sense that if someone has a virus somewhere, some new strain or some new mutation, and then it moves to another place, like from India to London, or from China to the whole, some mutation from America then moves to Mexico. Like, this is how it's just going to carry on like this, right? Until everyone is free from this.
Yeah.
So you're watching. I'm seeing these things from America. I know how I felt. How did you feel seeing these large gatherings that were happening, like, kind of in your own backyard?
Gaurvani, See, firstly, as a musician, it was beautiful to see everyone enjoy.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
It sounded really amazing, but deep within, I did feel. I hope this is a recording of the last year and not happening live at this point of time.
Yeah.
I was hoping that would be, and it's not that just because it was happening, I was offended. I'm going to judge them or something. It's, again, I'm repeating this. It's a very, very personal decision. Religion, such kind of gathering, because their intention is pure, right? They want to meet.
Right.
They want to sing for the pleasure of the Lord. But yeah, I shared what I felt the moment I saw, large gatherings without masks, especially.
What did you say? I mean, did you say something publicly?
I didn't. To be very honest, I didn't say anything publicly. I did message few of my friends who
were there,
would understand, who were there, who would. All I texted was.
So someone's posting live from some festival, and you texted them and said, "Are you being safe?" What did you say?
I didn't say don't go live. Hey, what the hell are you doing? But I just said I'm praying for you that you, along with everyone there, remain protected. Please wear your mask. In my own subtle way, I told them, at least please wear your masks. That's how it can reduce any kind of spreading that might happen. But yeah, it was a unique experience. Yeah.
What did they say in response? Did they respond at all?
Yes, the responses were there. Few of them were like, Jai Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jai Panchatattva. They were praising the Lord and everything's going to be fine. Few of them were also like, yes, it's all fine here. Don't worry. This place is immune to any kind of virus.
The holy place where these gatherings were taking place, their feeling was, we're singing God's name. What can touch us? We're immune.
This is a very important point, because we do feel in India, and I understand to a certain extent their emotion, that when we talk about holy places, all the positive activities that we do there, it's multiplied into thousands. That's what we've been told as kids. So I can understand why they feel that, okay, for example, Vrindavan, or for example, Mayapur, these are special places, we might not be affected. But again, like I said, it's a personal choice, and I chose practicality personally. I didn't preach it as much, but I tried to share it with my, near and dear ones. And that's
so right away, nothing seemed to happen. I mean, right away, there was no immediate impact. I mean, I remember seeing those live streams from those festivals, and then waiting for what they say, as they say in America, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like, okay, like, what next? Like, sure enough, there's going to be a big thing. And then there was nothing.
Correct.
What was that about? Have any of the medical experts in India been talking about patterns, or what? I mean, I don't fully understand what happened.
Gaurvani, if you talk about what happened with the Kumbh Mela, if you heard,
tell me about that.
So this was, it's actually funny, because how much ever careful you are, it's not going to be enough, right? It's not going to cancel out that you're COVID free. With this mentality, people started feeling that as it is, people are getting positive. So let's just do something spiritual, so that even if we need to fight COVID, we might have that extra immunity, instead of doing a typical steam, instead of drinking hot water and taking care of your health. It started deviating towards a little bit of, okay, let's get a Kumbh Snan, and ultimately God is a protector. Same concept. So that's their personal choice. It's they chose to have the bathing ceremony happen in lakhs, in lakhs. And
Lakh means 100,000, right?
yeah, 100,000 plus. In fact,
So
500,000.
100,000 is 1 lakh. So how do you know how many people attend Kumbh Mela or were there this year?
I'm sure more than 500,000. In fact, much more, but surely 500,000 people we are talking about
In one place at one time.
in one place. And you generally don't wear a mask when you bathe, right? So and there's no kind of social distancing also. So it's
So I know that religion, not just in India, is a complicated issue, and it's very, like you said, have said many times, it's very personal. So surely someone who's watching this is going to say, if these guys say anything against anything spiritual, I'm gonna get really upset. When I posted a photo of my arm with the vaccination with the little Band-Aid on it, one of the things people said to me was, if you have faith in God, why are you getting vaccinated?
wow.
Why don't you just let God do his work? And if you live, you live. And if you die, you die. And that to me is a kind of fanatical approach to something. That's like saying, don't eat. If God wants to feed you, he'll force food into your mouth or something like that. So I kind of was like, I didn't know what to say. It kind of bothered me that someone would say that, especially on the internet. And I was talking to one friend and he said, you can say the same thing back. You can say, if you have faith in God, then why can't you get vaccinated? What's the problem? God will protect you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, have you been vaccinated? I know that a lot of people didn't have access to the vaccine for quite some time. Is that changing?
It's changing rapidly, Gaurvani. Since the past 1 month, it's been amazing work by everyone, not only the government, but all the hospitals. In fact, one of the hospitals that you know about, where my dad is also a member, they have these amazing vaccinations going on for free for a lot of people, for especially the youngsters. We prioritized the senior citizens first, and then we came down to the 18 to 45 bracket age for people. So a lot of vaccinations happening right now. It's getting better, but again, it's going to take at least 3 to 4 months to even reach half of India's population.
Have you received your vaccination?
My first dose, yeah. So I was, after all the care, I was tested positive. After the gap that you need to take, as suggested by the doctor, I did get my first dose, my first jab, 15 days back.
How did you get COVID?
Very good question. So our entire family was positive, and my mother got it first, then I got it, and then my father got it. So that's how it came across. My mom hasn't stepped out. It's been me majorly who's traveled a bit for some essential services, and just a couple of houses where I had to go. But other than that, Gaurvani, there's no answer for this. I really don't know from where my mom must have got this, or from, probably from my mom, I got it, or you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. I was watching David Attenborough had this program about a friend recommended called A Life on Planet Earth, something like that. And I was just struck. There was a moment where he was saying that humans have become the highest on our food chain, So there's no more predators anymore that can affect us as a species. We've become so big. And then I was thinking, so this tiny, like invisible thing, the tiniest thing practically you can imagine is the thing that's, now attacking us.
True.
It's kind of a mystical thing, the way this planet is everything is connected. You know? Yeah. So your family's now getting vaccinated. Hopefully more and more people start getting vaccinated. And it seems that from the stats on the ground so far, that when people get vaccinated, the rates go down.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me where it's at now in Mumbai? Like what, you mentioned about the hospital, but as far as like, is Mumbai now open? Are people on the trains? How's it working now? Is it partially open? Are you going into work? Are you at home?
There's surely no work right now, but our term that we probably use in Mumbai is a lockdown. So we had a complete lockdown for a good 2 to 3 months, especially when the second wave hit us.
So when did that start? When was do you remember?
This was March, April.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was really bad. And, the numbers were just over the roof, because especially Maharashtra, where Mumbai is in, along with a lot of other districts and villages, they were heavily impacted. Like you've been to Pune, you've been to Nasik, you've been to Mumbai, you've been to Aurangabad. These are the places that you've traveled and performed as well.
Yeah.
So it was really bad there. A lot of relatives, devotees, family members, facing challenging situations. Touchwood, by God's grace, things are much better now, because the way people have reacted in these 2 months of sincerely, seeing to it that they're wearing their masks, they're not stepping out. Trains are not, working in 100% capacity. Only medical services and essential services. People, who are working for such companies are allowed. Travels
allowed on the trains or allowed on the roads?
On the trains as well as the roads.
So it's still kind of in a partial lockdown.
It is, but the extent of which the lockdown is has sobered down, and they were categorized into level 1 to level 5, and so we're currently at level 3, which is not a complete lockdown, but still you just can't venture out. Yeah.
Right. So when did those people, those poorer people who were working, for the houses, for the businesses, for the construction sites, for the shops, when they left, when did they come back into cities like Mumbai?
Gaurvani, a lot of them haven't even come back. Right? Because once you go there, they literally packed their bags and left there thinking, we're not going to come back, right? And once you are laid off, once your job is taken from you, people are getting used to doing things here by themselves. Giant corporates are in a way doing well, because a lot of their rent for their office spaces is being saved. People are working from home, managing. But again, if you're talking of people working in factories, house helpers, a lot of these house helpers have gone back to their villages. And as and when trains and probably the public transportation will probably be more active, that's when
it'll be possible for them to come back.
Yeah. But a lot of them are still back in their villages.
So between wave 1 and wave 2, they didn't try and come back again? Like when things started opening up, all of those, when the trains opened and everything, there wasn't a big influx of people who had left the cities coming back?
Yeah, as I said, not too many, but there were a few people who thought probably life is going to come back to track, and we can probably explore. But the main issue here, Gaurvani, was money, right? Even to come here and to survive here, you need a job. So till the time that's not confirmed, your food, your livelihood is not confirmed, it was challenging, but few of them did migrate probably.
So when it's back up to, when it's on, what is it, level 5 is best or level 1 is best? What's the rating?
Level 1 is best.
Level 1 is best.
Yeah.
So when it all goes down to level 1, I mean, what's it going to be like? What's it going to be like are you going to, if the government brings the level of warning down to 1,
Right.
are you going to accept and just kind of go out and do your thing? Or are you going to be cautious going forward? What's the future looking like?
Correct. So Gaurvani, level 1 would probably, let me just very briefly tell you what level 1 would mean.
Hmm.
They're actually planning this based on the number of beds that are occupied as COVID patients,
Right.
or the number of oxygen, ventilators or cylinders you might need,
Mhm.
based on the vacancy in the hospitals. That's how they are actually managing the levels.
Got it.
1 would actually mean freedom. It would actually mean you can travel where you want. Um, you can have your weddings, have your festivals. There will be some kind of a license given to celebrate the functions, the parties and stuff like that. So it will mean that you're free to do what you want. Of course, this will probably hopefully mean that everyone needs to be vaccinated. Both their jabs need to happen before the level 1 comes. I mean, that's what I'm hoping that means. But yeah, I mean, precaution has to be the new normal, right? That will be the new normal in terms of, I don't know. I hope you know when the government discloses it's going to be level 1, people are still being careful, wearing their masks, because we do hear some cases of positivity even after a couple of vaccine shots.
Right.
So till
It's
we don't
rare.
have
It's rare, but it's true. There
very
are.
rare,
Yeah.
very rare.
Yeah.
But I mean, just because you have 2 shots, it doesn't mean you become complacent again.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Wear your heart on the sleeve and wear your mask on your face.
Where did that come from? That's a class. Is that a saying that's going around the city?
No,
That's a Baldev Maheshwari original?
I think so. Copyrights.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I got to put that up. This is an important thing. Everyone needs to say that. Wear your heart on your sleeve. Oh my God. That's a classic. And your mask on your face. Let's see. Classic. Well, so I've asked if there are any questions or comments from folks, and we have a few things coming in. Before we go to questions, thank you. I know that you're someone who doesn't like to speak any ill, and I know that you've even, that the loss that comes from COVID affects others' health in so many other ways. And I know that your dear uncle passed, who is a very prominent member of our community and, friends to so many. I heard Radhanath Swami, he said he was one of his best friends for over 30 years. And, so I know you don't like to speak ill ever of anyone. And I appreciate your trying to share your heart, wear your heart on your sleeve, as you instructed us, and share your story, because I think it's very helpful. I think it will help others around the world. Like in America, we all have this feeling of invincibility. Maybe in India, the feeling is like, we've been through so much, we can handle it. The American version is, we're Americans, we can do whatever we want.
Okay.
Everyone has this ego that comes up, and I appreciate being able to have this conversation with you. First of all, because it connects us again together. I feel like I'm with you. And one thing I'd love for you to do, if you're willing, if you're still in the mood, I'd love for you to sing a little bit. I know that you mentioned that after COVID, your voice has been giving you some difficulty. And I'm sorry to say that publicly, but I say that mostly that people understand, I have dear friends whose we have mutual friends whose sisters are both incredibly healthy, and they're long hauler COVID sufferers.
Yeah.
So it's not just old people that are being affected, but we all should be very cautious, and we should carry on to do that safely. There's ramifications for this. We have to take care of each other, spiritually and materially. So if you're willing, if your voice is hale and hearty, would you sing something for us? Would you be willing?
Sure. So I'll try to sing something which would describe the current scenario in India, Mumbai. This is again by a very famous singer. I really like this song. That's why probably I would want to sing this. It speaks about how the city will shine again. How things will be back to how things were before. Villages will be happy. We will be meeting our friends. There won't be any restrictions, lockdowns, or any kind of limitations. Things will open up. And if India cooperates, we shall all smile again and India will win. So that's generally the meaning of the song, because this is a Hindi song. So I just thought I should share
The
what it
meaning.
actually means. And so that's it. And if anyone understands Hindi, they will understand what I'm singing.
Even if we don't, we'll understand your heart. I know that. I'm excited for everyone to hear your voice.
फिर से शहरों में रौनक आएगी, फिर से गाँव में लौटेगी खुशी, फिर से साथ सारे यार होंगे, ना होगी पाबंदी, ना रोक ही कोई, जो साथ दे दे सारा इंडिया, तो मुस्कुराएगा इंडिया, जीत जाएगा इंडिया, जो साथ दे दे सारा इंडिया, जीत जाएगा इंडिया, मुस्कुराएगा इंडिया, जीत जाएगा इंडिया, मुस्कुराएगा इंडिया। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम, सीताराम सीताराम सीताराम, सीताराम सीताराम सीताराम, रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम। This one is for you, Gaurvani. I love singing this song so much. And ultimately, we do need to surrender, right? We do need to surrender to Krishna, to God, after being absolutely practical and taking the necessary precautions. So this is for you. This is from you.
We surrender. We surrender while we're taking the precautions. We surrender after taking the precautions, before taking the precautions, right? The whole point, all of this is to teach us to surrender.
Yes. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Sharanam 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 Mama. Sharanam
Sharanam.
Sharanam
Sharanam.
Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. I love what you've done. I love your music. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Your voice was carrying us out of the material world and into the spiritual world. I'm so grateful for you sharing that. We have a few questions. If we have a few more minutes, is that all right?
Of course.
Here's a comment. Someone just responding, and we have so many other friends. And Drew, hey Drew, nice to see you.
Hi Drew, yeah, he's a dear friend.
Okay, so let's see. So here's a question. Here's a question that came in from a friend. Raj Bhumi here. Let's see what he says. He says, having experienced loss within your community, how does it make you feel to see people belittling this disease? And what positives have you seen come out of this?
Yeah, so let me read that again. Firstly, he's sharing, how does it make you feel to see people belittling this disease?
Kind of, there's a tendency, like you said, you touched on it a little bit earlier. There's a tendency, when people, if it hasn't affected them, there's a tendency to just say, oh, it's not real. It doesn't exist. Someone's making a big deal. They're doing this to control us. They're doing whatever people say, in the midst of all this.
No, there's no question of, being okay with people who belittle or undermine the intensity of the situation. That's where probably you need to put your foot down and, make them realize that this is not a joke. This is not a joke which is happening. So it's important to believe, firstly, that, okay, you need to take that stand and convey that message to that person. Like, listen, this is not something that you can belittle. But also understand where they're coming from. Is this ignorance? Is this lack of knowledge? Is this illiteracy? Is this something that they're doing intentionally and in a way mocking what's currently happening? So important to understand the intention of the person and then share what you feel with them, so that, as I said, it's a sensitive issue, right? So that's how I would probably want to address that. But the positives were many, Gaurvani. Positives were so many, because I, in fact, realized that the other side of the coin was how people came out to help. It showed that even though we talk about so many negatives, the way people helped in terms of financially, in terms of organizations giving food to people, that was a major positive, that when the time comes of crisis, there are some, good amount of people who are there to take care of you. And one more very, very vital point, which was, after fear comes hope. I like this song by Katy Perry, a very famous pop artist. She had a song called Fireworks. And she had a line in that song called, after a hurricane comes a rainbow. So there's this sign of hope, this sign of how things will be positive after such a ghastly scenario. So always feeling that pain will be temporary. That's one of the most important things that I learned in these testing times.
Beautiful. Yeah. There's a verse from, obviously you're familiar with it, but a scripture called Srimad Bhagavatam. And the verse is, Tatenukampam susamikshamano punjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvagvapurbir vidadandamaste jiveta yomukti pade sadayabak. So it's basically saying, whatever challenges that we go through in our life, they're actually gifts from God. And that in the same way that you, if you want to touch the sun, the only way to touch the sun is to become fire. So the only way to actually connect with God in such an intimate way is to become free from all of these other things that are not godly. So the great teachers, the great saints, Srila Prabhupada, who gave this beautiful purport on this, he says, actually, it's these external challenges are not only for teaching us a lesson, but they're ultimately for freeing us from the intention that caused the activity in the first place.
Sure.
And I think it's hard to remember that sometimes, but if I think about how selfish I am, it's like a weed, it's like a root that's so deep. I've been gardening a lot recently. I've been growing some lotuses in my garden and some other things. And when there's an old weed, you have to get it at the root, otherwise it comes up again and again and again every season. So to get it from the root is tricky. Sometimes you'll do everything right and you'll pull it off and the root will stay in the ground. So if I think of how selfish I am, truly to become free from selfishness in that way, negative selfishness, not self-realization, but selfishness, not self-awareness, but selfishness. It's going to take a lot for me to become free from that. And this life is giving me this opportunity to time and time again be challenged to grow from that, these experiences, to learn, to change, to serve. Yeah. To think of others, to see that it's a global family and that whatever happens to one ultimately affects everyone. But I don't want to lecture.
Couldn't agree more. No, it's absolutely, we're on the same boat, and whatever you said, spot on, Gaurvani. we realize that little is more, we could survive with so much less. We've reached out to people who actually matter. We've actually somehow found the real purpose, the real thing that we need. We were running behind a lot of distractions, a lot of mistakes which were made during these times. It kind of got us a little more closer to what we would actually want to be. So
I hope we can keep that. that. We have another question here from Poonam. She's asking, any virtual kirtans going on anywhere that you know of that they can be part of?
I see a lot of kirtans happening virtually, on Facebook. Sometimes when I glance through my story, so one I can immediately think of is, I guess, the Pune temple. They have a lot of beautiful kirtans which are happening constantly. Harinam Prabhu. He organizes these kirtans. So Poonam, you can surely go onto their page and just follow them, and you'll have kirtans happening all day. But quite a few. Gaurvani, even you were part of a global pandemic Kirtan
We've been
festival.
doing so many. In fact, there's one coming up that we're part of. That's a fundraiser for a new Bhaktivedanta hospital facility that's being
Oh yes, oh
raised
yes.
in Barshana, which is the sacred place of Sri Radha near Krishna's town of Vrindavan in North India. So that's called a River of Health and Happiness. I think that's on June, International Day of Yoga, the 21st, I think, something like that.
20th of June, yeah.
20th of June, yeah. We also should take the opportunity to do this, because this is the website for Bhaktivedanta Hospital. They have been doing in Vrindavan, they converted a hospice center to a COVID care facility.
Yes.
Of course, multiple Bhaktivedanta hospitals have been serving people, and many, many free people for decades. So if you want to support, if you want to be a practical part of the solution in India, please check out this website as well as this one. This group, which is run by friends of Baldev's and community members, they've been feeding also people consistently throughout this whole time of COVID. So these are a couple of places that you can get more info.
They actually feed 22 million people. They've actually fed that many in these testing times. So
wow, incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
Incredible work. So, and don't forget this guy. What are you going to call your new album when it comes out?
I'm going to call you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I need to work on the names, but yeah.
Well, I guess to close our time together today, I'll share some of my thoughts, and then maybe you can have the last word. This summer is another year now, watching another year passing. My kids are today in their last day of school before summer holidays begin. And they've been incredible. They've been patient. They have worked with us. Whatever we try and have them do, we've tried to give them, you can do this, you can't do this. When things started opening up, okay, you can see friends, this friend or this many friends, but you have to keep your mask on, like trying to keep everyone together and close and safe. And the kids have been patient. They've really been incredible. So, I am so grateful for that, because we're family and I am trying to take care of them. And even though I don't know what's right, I only have the information I have. So as a father, I have to choose, like your father did. Please, let's not go out and about. Let's be together and weather through this time. So the message that I would love to share for our global family, global community is, as hard as it is, let's be patient. Let's not make the mistake of hubris. There's a fine line between bravery and stupidity, as they say, because if even one more family member, community member, one more soul who doesn't need to pass, if they pass because of this, it's too many, even one, what to speak of, the numbers. I didn't even want to get into it. It was too intense, the numbers, but I have them here, it's too much. So please, everyone, take care of each other. Let's be patient. We will get through this, but we need to get through it as a global family. If they're still struggling in Brazil or in China or in India or in England, then we're all still struggling.
Spot on, Gauravani. I would like to take the same words, and that's all we can do, right? We can share what we feel. We can request people to be safe. Don't take this lightly, because my personal experience, I've lost my family members. So that's how I can request people to please not take this lightly till the time it's absolutely gone.
Right.
But yeah, I just pray everyone remains safe regardless of whatever choices everyone makes. Ultimately, they're going to do what they want. But I still pray that I mean, God protects them. There's peace and there's mental stability, because it's been tough, as you mentioned, right? Kids not having a ground to play. Imagine kids stuck in the house. It's tough, but I hope there's some more patience. There's something more left within everyone to fight this together.
Mm. Mm. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you, pleasure to connect with you, and a super great pleasure to hear you singing. All my best wishes and prayers for you, for your family, and for our friends and community in Mumbai. Thank you.
My singing journey, my music journey, and now I can officially say my life journey, is a lot to do with you, Gaurvani. You've known me for a few years, but you've inspired me since more than a decade. I truly love you, and I respect you a lot. And thank you for choosing me to be a part of not only your podcast, but also your life. And thank you for being a brother to me.
Thank you. Great pleasure. Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining us here on another episode of Sound and Form. This is a journey in progress. This world is vast. There's so many incredible miracles and challenges, mysteries and curiosities. And the question that I always have as I encounter them is, how am I as a soul to navigate all of this? Where is the path towards eternity, towards enlightenment, towards the evolution of consciousness in the midst of this incredible, beautiful, strange, and diverse existence? So I'll just I'll end today with a little song, a song for protection, a song that it was sung by Sri Chaitanya as he was wandering around India alone. Now, as we all know, this is not the first global pandemic. This is not the first challenge that humanity has faced. So what can we do? We can try our best, we can be safe, and ultimately, whatever choices we make, we have to take shelter in God's grace and in the holy name. There's a beautiful story I'm reminded from Radhanath Swami's book, The Journey Home, where he's on the hill in Varshana. And he's with this very saintly man, Ramesh Baba, and he sees him going to bed, and he's holding a small club, a small stick. And he says, "Why are you holding the stick?" And he says, "Oh, there's a panther loose on Mangar, on the mountain." And Radhanath Swami was just a young teenager at the time, and he said, "But that's just a tiny stick. What are you going to do? How is that going to help anything?" And Ramesh Baba said, No, this stick is just, it won't protect me against the panther if the panther attacks in the night. So why are you holding it? Why are you going to bed with this? Oh, this stick is just to show God that I'm doing my part, that I'm not lazy, that I'm going to do my part. So whether it's a little stick or a little mask or a little jab in the arm, we want to do our part. But ultimately, we have to depend on the Lord, no matter what our choices. Here's a song to carry us out. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahima, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshama. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna hey, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna hey, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahima, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshama, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshama, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahima. Now, if you don't know the words and you want to sing along, this part you can do. It's just Krishna, 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 Krishna with a hey at the end. We'll just do this a couple more times. Krishna, 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 hey, Krishna, 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 hey, Krishna, 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 hey, Krishna, 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 hey. Thank you so much. See you next time for another edition of Sound and Form.